Hi there, and welcome to the Refining the Design walkthrough video, which is part of the Refining the Design lesson pack. My name is Kieran, and I'm one of the creators of the Refining the Design activity here at Digital Skills Education. In this walkthrough video, I'll take you through all the questions, and I'll put in the answers you can also see in your lesson pack. So to get started, head on over to cyberskillslesson.com and click on Refining the Design. And once you're there, you can enter your first name and your school. Once you've done that, your page will look something like this. So first, we're introduced to Scotify. And Scotify is a music streaming service based in Scotland, and they're launching a new app. And they want to attract users to sign up. So their goal is to make their app easy and learn to use, accessible to everyone, and attractive and pleasing to look at. And our task today is to take on the role of a human-computer interaction researcher, who will look at the app and evaluate how it meets these goals. So during this evaluation, we think about how and what makes an app easy to use, and make suggestions about usability problems that we think. So human-computer interaction is a study and research of how people interact and use computing systems. It focuses on how to make computers and apps and websites easier to use. That takes us on to question 1. Which of these activities would we expect a human-computer interaction researcher to do as part of their job? So the options we have are designing ergonomic furniture, setting the price of computer components, researching how to make an app easier to use, and writing code to add a new feature to an app. So I'm going to select this one here and press check my answer. And that's the correct answer. So what makes an app easy to use? As a HCI researcher, we'll evaluate the usability of the Scotify music app and suggest changes to make it more appealing and easier to use. To do this, we think about our own experiences of using apps and websites and what makes it fun or frustrating. So moving on to question 2, we're asked to name an app or website that we enjoy using or find really easy to use. Our example answer here is, I really enjoy using the Google Maps app. I like how it shows places on the map that are really useful to me and personally I zoom in and out. And then the search bar is always there. So let's submit the answer and that gets sent across to us. And question 3 is very similar. Name an app or website that you find frustrating or difficult to use. Again, our answer here is, I don't like using the Amazon app as the button layout often swaps, making it confusing to go back or cancel things. So again, this is the answer. So now we're entering the choosing and designing icons section. The Scotify app makes use of icons as part of their interface. A good icon represents the action you want to take and is relevant to something the user might have seen in the real world. When choosing an icon, it must be recognizable and simple. HCI designers often use a metaphor or symbolism when designing interfaces. Often the icon's a picture and represents an action the user wants to take. So example here is a pair of scissors, if it symbolizes cutting out something out of a page. So moving on to question 4, which of these icons is normally used in representing printing a file? So I've definitely seen option 2 before. And what the question is asking us is, what do we think? So I think it's option 2. Correct answer. Page designers all have a rule of thumb that icons should match between system and real world. There's a famous HCI research called Jakob Nielsen, and he says the design should speak to users. Use words, phrases, and concepts familiar to the user rather than internal jargon. Follow real-world conventions, making information appear in a natural and logical order. Moving on to question 5. Why is this printing icon a good design decision? Have we seen it somewhere else before? Does it look like something you associate with printing? So tell us a few sentences why this icon is used. So our example answer here is, the printing icon is a good design decision because it looks like a real-life printer. It's recognizable. I've seen this icon used in a few apps like Word, and it's always used when user wants to print a file, so it's consistent with other apps. And question 6. Spotify wants app users to delete songs from their music library. Which of these icons would you recommend they use for this feature? So I have a few options to choose from here. Option 2 and 3 are very similar, showing some cross icons. Option 4 is definitely more of an edit or pencil icon. I'm going to choose option 1, what looks like a bin. Again, our example reading here is, I chose the first icon because it looks like a bin. I'm deleting a song and putting it into a metaphorical bin. Let's make it other icon design decision. Scotify wants users to be able to keep a note of the songs they enjoy listening to. When they press a button, that track will be added to a playlist of our favorite songs. Question 7. Which of these icons would you recommend Scotify use for this feature? So the bottom row for me is definitely not icons that I would use. The second row here is a bit better, but definitely one of the ones at the top. I think I'm going to choose a heart because I've seen that one before. And our example we're using here is, I chose the heart icon as it represents loving a song. I would expect this icon to add it to our loves playlist. Question 8. Designing an icon. The Scotify app has a feature where the user can press a button and the lyrics of the current song are shown on the screen. In the text box, sketch an icon that you think represents this feature. So this question is quite cool. We get to draw our own icon. So here we have our color control and our pen thickness. So to get started, I'm going to change it to blue, add lots of thickness. I'm going to add some lines representing lyrics. Then I'm going to change it back to black here. And I might draw some music. Show that to some music. So that's some of that design. And now in question 9, we're re-asked to describe our icon. And our example reasoning here is, I use a musical note to show that the music and lines represent the lyrics of the song. So let's sing that across. That brings us into the end of the iconography section. Our next section is accessibility and design for everyone. So Scotify has made a promise to make the app accessible to everyone. Making an app accessible means making sure it can be used as many people as possible, and that includes people with impaired vision, motor difficulties, learning difficulties, and deafness and loss of hearing. To help these users, it's important that Scotify app follows strict accessibility guidelines. Question 10. Around 67 million people live in the UK. How many of these people do we think have a disability? There's a few options for us to choose from here, but I'm going to select 14 million people and check the answer. So that's the correct answer, and we can see at the bottom of a source button as well that the learners can click on to see where the information came from. So designing for people with visual impairments. There are two key ways that HCI designers can create interfaces accessible to people with visual impairments, like blurred vision or colorblindness. And these are size adjustable text. This is important because it allows users to change the way text looks. They can set it to a size that allows them to read the on-screen content more easily. Another way is high color contrast, meaning how easy it is to see or read text, images, or icons on different color backgrounds. For example, light yellow is very tricky to read on white backgrounds. This is very important to people with colorblindness. So question 11, Scotify has asked you to choose colors for their app, good contrast between them. We just select one combination below, it's easiest to read. So straight away, I find contrast 2 very difficult to read, and contrast 4 hurts my eyes. So I'm more drawn to contrast 1 and contrast 3. I definitely think contrast 3 is the most easy to read, so I'll select that one. And our example reading here is, I chose a blue and white color contrast. The text was easy to read against the background, and people with colorblindness will be able to read it as well. So let's submit an answer. Designing people with poor motor skills. So motor skills that let you move your hand and fingers easily is important to account for users with motor control disabilities and design accommodations to make navigation easier. There are two ways that HCI designers can do this. That is, make button sizes large enough for it so it's easy to press, even if the phone cannot be held steady or the user find it difficult to touch accurately. And keeping consistent layouts across pages. So buttons stay in a predictable place. This makes it easier for people who have to grip the phone in a certain way to reach areas of the screen. So in question 12, Scotify needs to add a back button to their app. This button is very important as it allows users to navigate to previous places in the app. As a member, this must be accessible to people with poor motor skills. So designers have produced 2 mock-up screenshots in different places of the back button. Now thinking as a HCI designer, we just select the mock-up we think would be best for people with limited motor skills. So in mock-up A, I can see the back buttons in the top left and it's in the right in mock-up B. But it's much bigger on the mock-up A, and I've definitely seen the back button used in the left before, so I'm going to select mock-up A. Again, in our Example reasoning here is, I chose A because the back button is a familiar place and large enough to touch easily. So moving on, designing for people with learning difficulties like dyslexia. So dyslexia is a common learning difficulty that affects roughly 1 in 10 people in Scotland. And often people with dyslexia may have more difficulty reading and writing than others. Once again, there are two ways HCI researchers can make your app much easier for someone who has dyslexia. And they are choosing large, clear fonts. It helps people differentiate between letters and makes it easier to read and understand the words. And keeping things short and spacing out paragraphs helps keep instructions simple and focuses the user attention. Question 13. Scotify Design Team suggested 3 different fonts used in the app. Which one would we recommend that they use? You need to remember this font will be easy to read as it will be used everywhere in the app. So we have the font here, Pacifico, Blue, and Scrangy. I really like Pacificos. I just think it's quite fancy and nice. The Blue is definitely easiest for me as I don't like this one at all. So that's the And so our example recently here is, I would use the Blue font as it's straightforward and easy to read. The font is clear and spaced out, making it suitable for people with dyslexia. Now, let's identify some accessibility issues. Scotify was informed of accessibility issues in the top songs page of their app. Major reported issues were, a user with dyslexia found it difficult to read the text in certain parts of the app. A user of a hand trimmer couldn't add the song to a playlist. And a user of cataracts found it difficult to understand when a menu item was selected. Scotify said to try to fix these issues to ensure the app is accessible to everyone. In question 14, tap on areas where accessibility changes had to be made to the app and can we spot all 3 different seats in the right-hand screenshot. So we can look at the 2 screenshots of the top songs page. The left screenshot shows the app how it looks after the fixes, and the right screenshot shows how the app looked originally. We tap on 3 areas in the right screenshot of accessibility issues. So looking at the right-hand screenshot here, I definitely see one at the top here. This one's just not very good. So let's click here. Great, so that's pulled up us finding an accessibility issue, where we can type in our reasoning for why it's an accessibility issue. And their example reasoning here is, the font is difficult to read and will be unsuitable for people with dyslexia. So let's send that across. Now found 1 out of 3. And there's definitely one here as well. This button here is far too small compared to on the left-hand side. So let's input why we think it's the case. And our reasoning here is, the add buttons are too small for people with most difficulties and they will struggle to press it. And our final one, I think this problem with contrast here is very different, these two. So let's click on this one. Great, so let's enter Y. And our example reasoning here is, the color used in the navigation bar does not contrast enough and is difficult to see. People with color blindness will not see it correctly. So let's send this one. Great, so that's found all 3 accessibility issues. By taking into account these guidelines and best practices, we've helped to make the Scotify app accessible to everyone. And that's it. So we've come to the end of the Refine the Design activity. Learners can now see a mock-up of the finished Scotify app after all their fixes. So thanks for listening to the walkthrough video today and have fun refining the design. Thanks.